Hello and welcome to Ryan Reviews. I'm going to be going through all the transfers of each club in the Premier League in a few episodes and looking at deadline deals and looking at all the rumours and all the ins and outs of everything so far in the January transfer window. Jumping straight into it. So, starting alphabetically, Arsenal look like they're going to be one of the busiest in the transfer deadline day. Looked like they're interested in Ivan Perisic from Inter Milan, trying to get him on a loan deal with a option to buy him in the summer. The Croatian, however, doesn't look like he's going to be joining, even though he put in a transfer request at his club at Inter. But Arsenal can't agree with Inter to have a loan deal with him definitely permanently joining him in the summer, as they don't have the financial resources at the moment, according to the club. However, Yannick Carrasco at Dalian Yifang isn't joining Arsenal from the look of it either. Another wide man, even though Arsenal seem to need some defensive cover. Their two major targets don't look like they're going to be joining, as Carrasco wanted to see whether he would be. Wants to know, or both targets want to know whether they're going to be playing Europa League or Champions League football next season, and Arsenal can't confirm that, despite when I'm filming this, sitting in fourth position. They can't confirm which competition they'll be in next season, so it's a bit of complicated between the two targets there. However, a third target, unfortunately, looks like those two won't be coming in, but Christopher Nkunku, a 21-year-old from PSG, could be joining, with again looking for a loan with an option to buy. He's made 17 appearances this season for PSG and 66 in the time he's been there, and he's actually not lost while playing for PSG this season. He's another central midfielder. Looks like he could be joining tomorrow or in transfer deadline day. It'd be quite interesting to see whether that can get through in time, and whether PSG would be willing to let a young star, obviously he's only 21, he's a France under 21 international, whether they'd let him go, especially with the option to buy as well. Loan deal, I can understand, he might come and get some game time, so interesting to see whether that can go through. In terms of confirmed deals, Denis Suarez's deal went through and he has joined from Barcelona, the 25-year-old Spanish midfielder, who's actually an ex-Man City player, a youngster as well. He signed a new contract with Barcelona before joining Arsenal, as they wanted to confirm that they would make money, or to confirm his price tag in case he doesn't sign on a permanent deal for Arsenal in the summer. So he is joining, but with the option to buy in the summer at the end of the season. Whether he'll get enough game time between now and until then will depend on whether the likes of Ramsey will start to get shot out the squad, whether Xhaka, Guendouzi and Torreira just are started to sort of rotate instead. Obviously, we've got a lot of competitions with the league and then Europa League coming as well. So, yeah, I think it would be tough for Suarez to get into the side, and I think he's going to have to prove his worth in the next few months, whether or not Arsenal will confirm the signing in the summer. In terms of outs for the Gunners, fourth choice Emiliano Martinez has left on loan to Reading, and that's all so far. I've read some rumours that there could be a few more outs with a couple of the youngsters, Eddie Nketiah and Smith Rowe, could be moving to Germany, to Red Bull Leipzig and another German outfit. So they could be getting some first team football over in the Bundesliga, which could be great for them as they don't seem to get much league football at all at the moment. They have impressed in the Europa League when they've got some chances, but I'd like to see what they can do with consistent football. However, even though those are the players which are sort of confirmed to be going out, Petr obviously a legend in the Premier League and especially for Chelsea, confirmed that he will retire at the end of the season this January, and it looks like Aaron Ramsey will also be leaving in the summer, and it looks like he has signed a pre-contract deal with Juventus. They're just waiting to finalise the deal and make it public. It looks like they'll be going through just a few days after the window. And moving on, as AFC Bournemouth have been very busy this January, looking at all the ones who have joined them. Starting off with ex-Chelsea striker Dominic Solanke joined Bournemouth for 21 million earlier in the window. The England international has only got one cap, and that was back in November 2017. So I imagine he's joined Bournemouth to try and get some more game time, as he struggled to do that at Liverpool. Since he's been there, he only made 27 appearances and only scored one goal. So I imagine it was relatively easy for both parties to let him leave and try and get back onto the international stage. Since joining Bournemouth, however, his luck hasn't been great, as he joined them with a hamstring injury and hasn't actually made his debut yet. And the only goal he scored for Liverpool was in the 4-0 win against Brighton at the end of last season. Another signing for Bournemouth was Chris Mepham for 13.6 million from Championship side Brentford. The 21-year-old Welsh international has 4 caps already and is looking to continue a good form, as Brentford are actually unbeaten in 2019 and are 10 points above the drop zone. So he's looking to continue that form with Bournemouth. He made 48 appearances coming through the Brentford Academy and was seen as a good prospect. So I think they've got a good youngster on their hands. I haven't seen him play personally, and I hope he can break into the Bournemouth team. Another defensive recruit is Nathaniel Klein, or on loan from Liverpool this time. The 27-year-old right back struggled to get back into the Liverpool side, with the emergence of Joe Gomez and Alexander Arnold taking his position while he's been struggling with injuries. However, back fully fit, he's still struggled to get in. He's made a few appearances, but he just hasn't been able to make it. He's also an England international, but hasn't been called up since March 2017, and would be looking to get some game time and to be getting back into the side, as England are in another tournament next summer with the Nations League. I imagine he wants to be part of that. The ex-Crystal Palace youngster is also an experienced Premier League player, having over 170 appearances in the Premier League for both Southampton and Liverpool. Focusing on the people who have left Bournemouth this January, the biggest surprise being Jermaine Defoe, who has moved to Scottish side Rangers on an 18-month loan. That will take him to the end of his contract with the Cherries, as he's only made 34 appearances since signing for them and scored 4 goals. However, a lot of those appearances have been from the bench. Joining Rangers, he's also going to be working under his former England teammate Steven Gerrard. Rangers currently sit second in the table and are joint points with Kilmarnock and 6 points behind leaders Celtic. He's already made his debut for Rangers and actually scored in his debut, which is a good start for him, and is looking potentially getting England called up. Whether he can break back into the side, he did it while at Sunderland. I'm not sure whether he can do it again though. Another player leaving Bournemouth was Mark Pugh, as he left also out on loan to Hull City. The 31-year-old winger is actually going to be there for the next 5 to 6 months. However, that will also bring him up to the end of his contract, and I imagine he'll be leaving the Cherries after that. He's only made 3 appearances this season, one of which was against Brighton in the FA Cup. However, they lost that game, and he did manage to score in that as well. But I imagine he'll be leaving Bournemouth at the end of the season. We're moving on to another side. And moving on, we're looking at Brighton Hove Albion now and what transfers they've been up to. They have brought in Alexis Mac Allister for 8 million from Argentinos. However, the Argentine midfielder, who's 20 years old, won't be in a Brighton shirt anytime soon. He has returned to Argentinos until the end of the season. The attacking midfielder was described as an exciting young player by Chris Hughton on the club's website. He, despite being quite young, 20 years old, he's already made 59 appearances for the club, scored 8 goals and 6 assists, but he hasn't been involved in any of the national teams just yet. Looks like a good player though, and will hopefully break into the Brighton team next season. Another player who's been brought in at Brighton is Dan Burn. Technically signed in the summer for Brighton, the centre-back was loaned back to Wigan until January in quite a weird transfer. The 26-year-old was involved in Wigan's promotion to the Championship last season, winning the League One title. He signed in the summer for 3 million, but was loaned back, as said. He only missed one game in while in League One for Wigan. He only missed one game throughout the whole season. Otherwise, played every single minute for them. So was an integral part of the squad. I presume that's why they didn't want him to go straight away in the summer. He's played 15 times for them this season, and they're currently struggling. Wigan in 20th position, so can't imagine they were quite happy with him leaving. He's already made his debut for Brighton. He's played against West Brom, funny enough, another Championship club, in the FA Cup. He kept a clean sheet, and so there'll now be a replay of that game. But yeah, he kept a clean sheet against Championship's top goal scorer, so that's quite an impressive debut. And I imagine he's looking to break in and make his Premier League debut. In terms of who's left Brighton, Oliver Norwood, who was part of the promotion-winning squad, has permanently left the club, moving to Sheffield United, who he was on loan to. The 27-year-old ex-Man United youngster was on loan there, has captained Sheffield United a couple of times this season, so he's obviously been an integral part of the squad. United are currently third in the league and 3 points off Norwich, who is second. He's never actually made a Premier League appearance for Brighton. It was put out on loan, but has a wealth of experience as he's over 250 appearances in the Championship, so I can understand why Sheffield United want to bring him in permanently. And another player who's left is Ezequiel Charlotto, who's moved on loan to Chievo Verona in Italy. The 29-year-old right back was signed last season, but is now out on loan until the end of this campaign. He made 20 appearances last season for Brighton, but has failed to make any this year, so it's seen as surplus to requirements and has been put out on loan. I imagine that is probably going to be the end of his Brighton career. He already has played for a host of clubs in Italy, playing for Sassuolo, Inter Milan, Parma, Chievo previously, and Cesena. So I think he'll probably sign a contract with Chievo and move there permanently in the summer. Moving on to Burnley. Not much business going on there. A few youngsters going out on loan, but in terms of permanent deals, nothing really coming in. However, there's been a lot of rumours on what will be happening on deadline day. A veteran striker, Peter Crouch, has been linked with moving to the club as part of a deal which would send Sam Vokes going to Stoke City. Crouch, who has obviously got lots of experience in the Premier League with the likes of Portsmouth, Spurs, and Stoke themselves, has scored 2 goals this season in 26 appearances. I don't believe there's been many starts though. A lot of them have been sub appearances. Vokes, however, hasn't really been hitting the goals for Burnley, and they look to cash in for around 8 million, around 8 to 9 million. Whatever profit they make of him, Wolves will receive 25% of that. So that'll be a big deal for both clubs, or for the 3 parties if that goes through on deadline day. Che Adams, Birmingham City striker, is another option for them to sign, as Burnley haven't been hitting the goals this season, so looking to bring in another striker. The 22-year-old has 15 goals this season so far for Birmingham. However, the fee, which could be around 15 million, could be lowered if Burnley allow the striker to stay at Birmingham until the end of the season. In terms of players leaving, nothing really happening at Burnley, and that's where we'll wrap it up with Burnley. Going to Wales now and looking at what Cardiff City have been up to this January transfer window. Obviously, in all the headlines and in all the newspapers, Emiliano Sala signed for Cardiff, but obviously massive tragedy as he's gone missing. Obviously, send all my prayers and hope that he obviously gets better. He did sign as their record signing for 17 million, but is still missing. Hopefully, he can be found safe. But reports aren't positive. They have signed another striker, Oumar Niasse from Everton. The Senegalese striker, 27 years old now, has only made 5 appearances for Everton this season without scoring a goal. So he was seen as a surplus to requirements at Everton. Obviously, Marco Silva doesn't really rate him, with other striker options using Richarlison, obviously, and usually deployed on the wing up front instead of him. The former Hull striker, in 3 years of being at Goodison Park, made 39 appearances and has only scored 9 goals. So not really a proven goal scorer in the Premier League, but hopefully Neil Warnock at Cardiff can get the best out of him and try and save them from relegation. Looking at who is left Cardiff now, they've been rather busy trying to get out some of the dead wood. Anthony Pilkington is left on a free transfer, going to Wigan Athletic. The Irish winger, who's international with 9 caps, scored a goal for Ireland against the USA in a 4-1 win in 2014, but hasn't had a cap in a few years now. Hasn't appeared for Cardiff at all this season, and only made 13 appearances in their promotion campaign, so obviously not used to a great extent. He's played 2 games for Wigan, the ex-Norwich City and Huddersfield player, and has already got an assist, so he's obviously making a bit of an impact there, and he's hoping to get a good run of games towards the end of his career. Gary Medine, a striker who joined Cardiff last January actually for 6.8 million, has joined Sheffield United on loan. As mentioned earlier, Sheffield United are looking for promotion, chasing Norwich, and with the firepower of Gary Medine, who's a proven goal scorer in Championship and League One, they're hoping that he can score the goals to get promoted. He's an ex-Sheffield Wednesday player, funny enough, though. He's made over 100 appearances for them and scored 28 goals. So it'd be interesting to see whether the fans will accept him quickly or whether he'll have to prove them his loyalty. Another stat is that since signing last January for Cardiff, he actually failed to score for them in the 19 games he played. And yeah, you can see why Cardiff were looking for a striker and looking to pass him on to another side. And another player who is left, Lee Tomlin, who is left on loan to League One Peterborough United. He's a former Peterborough player. He has made over 150 appearances, so he's going to a club that he knows quite well, looking to get some game time as he's only made 16 appearances for them for Cardiff since joining them in July 2017. And he joined for a hefty fee of 3.3 million. So Cardiff haven't really got the best out of him, and I think he's just hoping to get some more, just enjoy football again and go back to a club he knows quite well. That's the end of what Cardiff's been up to so far. I reckon they'll probably be busy on deadline day trying to sign another striker, try and get some more firepower to try and push them away from the drop. They did ask the Premier League for an extension for the transfer window. However, that got rejected, so they'll have to get any business done in tomorrow's deadline day. And finally, looking at Chelsea, the final team for this video. Obviously, one of the biggest signings they made was signing Gonzalo Higuain on a loan deal from Juventus. Apparently, that's about a £9 million loan fee just to get him in. Obviously, there is an option to sign him in the summer as well. Whether or not they will do that depends on how he does on his stay between now and end of the season. I think signing he's a 31-year-old Argentinian international. He scored 31 goals in 75 international appearances, so that's a great pedigree. He scored throughout his whole career. He scored a goal every 137 minutes, with his best goal-scoring season being with Napoli in the 2015-16 season, where he scored 36 goals in 35 games, setting a Serie A record there. He hasn't been fantastic as of late. This season he was loaned out from Juventus to AC Milan, where in 22 appearances he scored 8 goals, actually less than what Alvaro Morata has scored this season. So he isn't going to come in with likely to come in and hit the ground running at Chelsea. I think he needs a little bit of getting used to playing in the Premier League. Obviously, it's a brand new league to him, and that can usually take a little while for players, especially if he's not fully fit, at least match fit. Yeah, I think the ex-Real Madrid and Napoli player could really be a hit at Chelsea. Because they really need to be playing a striker. They obviously have Batshuayi, who I think is likely to go out on loan before the deadline ends. And they've also got Giroud, who has also been Olivier Giroud, who's been linked with a move as well. Higuain has played in Chelsea's last 2 games, including the 4-0 thrashing to Bournemouth. Shocking how that's happened, and has failed to score in both of those games so far, but has been a generally good impact in the games from what I've seen and read. Another big signing, Christian Pulisic, the American youngster, has signed for around £64 million from Borussia Dortmund. He's been loaned back until the end of the season. Considering the price tag, it being so hefty, he only has 18 months left on his deal. I wonder whether Chelsea panicked into that. I reckon they could have waited until the end of the season and potentially got him for a lot cheaper, just how Real Madrid got Courtois for rather cheap from them, considering the quality that these players have. The 20-year-old United States international has already appeared on the international stage 23 times. He's a winger, and I reckon he could be Hazard's replacement in the summer if he decides to leave, if he's not enjoying his time and doesn't sign a new contract, and could be again following Courtois to Real Madrid. In 12 appearances this season for Pulisic, he's only had 3 goal contributions, and he's only completed 3 90 minutes in the league. He, however, has over 100 appearances for Dortmund with 15 goals and 24 assists, which isn't bad at all. Again, he's 20 years old. He's going to develop, and he's got the world at his feet. He could easily increase those stats at Chelsea, where he's got so much quality could be around him as well. Saying that, obviously Borussia Dortmund have tons of quality as they're storming the Bundesliga this season, and with the likes of Marco Reus being consistently fit this season and his incredible form alongside Jadon Sancho, who's emerged into an incredible young talent as well, I think Dortmund were quite happy to see him leave, especially when Chelsea offered such a high figure, and really they've got some pretty good replacements there. In terms of who has left Chelsea, some of the big names, obviously Alvaro Morata, as I mentioned earlier, has left to go out on loan to Atletico Madrid on an 18-month loan. I think that'll probably see the end of his time at Chelsea. In 24 appearances this season, he scored 9 goals. As I said, it's actually, funny enough, more than what his replacement Higuain has scored. He actually leaves Chelsea with a reasonably good goal rate, surprising enough, with a goal every 179 minutes, basically one every other game, which is pretty good. And I think if it wasn't for the chances he has missed, he would have been recognised as a good goal scorer. He won the FA Cup while with the Blues, and it's not really a bad stint at the club, really. I think that he just needs a little bit of time away, and I think he needs a bit more confidence. I reckon Atletico can do that. He's got some, again, working with the likes of Antoine Griezmann and Diego Costa there. I think he could have a fantastic time with 2 up top. Another big move was Cesc Fabregas, the 31-year-old Spanish midfielder, had his contract expiring in the summer and has left Chelsea, moving to Monaco. Chelsea, he has moved on a free transfer. However, depending on his appearances, Chelsea will earn more money off that. He leaves the Premier League with a fantastic record. He played 350 games in the Premier League, scoring 50 goals, and was only second to Ryan Giggs in the all-time assist record, assisting 114 goals. Since joining Chelsea in 2014, he won the Premier League twice, the FA Cup and the League Cup. However, since moving to Monaco, he hasn't had the best of impacts, as Monaco have had an incredibly bad season so far, and it hasn't got much better despite them splashing the cash this January transfer window, bringing in a bunch of new players, including Naldo and Gelson Martins, as well as Fabregas. In the 3 games that he's been involved in, Monaco have lost 2 and drew the other. So hopefully he can make an impact. Thierry Henry has recently been replaced with the previous manager, and I think it will eventually work for them. I can't imagine that Monaco could be relegated with the likes of the talent I've already mentioned, as well as a Croatian keeper who was at the World Cup final, Subasic, and as well as Glick for Poland and Falcao, as well as just young talent which they already have at the club. And finally, another big name which is left on another 18-month loan is Victor Moses, who has joined another surprisingly struggling club, Fenerbahce, in the Superliga. The 28-year-old Nigerian was deployed as a wing-back, originally a winger, joined Chelsea back in 2012 from Wigan for around £11 million. This is his 4th loan stint out from the club after having stints at West Ham, Stoke, and Liverpool. In his time at the club, his sort of best time at the club was under Conte, making nearly 80 appearances over the 2 seasons he was in charge. He won the Premier League and the FA Cup in that time, but unfortunately he's only made 7 appearances, and as Sarri came in, and he's publicly said that he was willing to let him leave in this window. as mentioned earlier, Fenerbahce have had a terrible season so far in the league, especially sitting 14th out of 18th and are only 2 points away from the relegation spot. So he has got a lot of pressure on his shoulders to go there and make an impact. That's it so far on my transfers. If you want to watch more, I will be continuing the rest of the transfers throughout the league, which will be coming up in the next couple of days. Keep an eye on that. Let me know if you like this. Leave a like and comment on which club you want to hear from and what transfers I may have missed. And that's it. Thank you. Goodbye.